Your family is the problem. That's what the chairman told her, seconds before she flipped his entire world upside down. She didn't argue, she didn't cry. She walked out and came back with the one thing that could destroy his career: their freedom. This isn't a revenge story, it's a reckoning. What happens when the girl they underestimated becomes the woman who rewrites the rules? Watch till the end. The final twist will change the way you see power, loyalty, and legacy. Your family is the problem. Not your work ethic, not your skills, your last name. He said it flatly, like stating the weather. And for a moment, she didn't breathe. Not out of shock, but clarity. The kind that sharpens your spine instead of crushing it. His office smelled like lacquered power. Oak panels, curated silence, a view that looked down on a city she once thought would save them. Now, it just watched. If you find value in real stories told with clarity and truth, make sure to subscribe to stay informed with Black Grace Diaries. Her name was Marielle Juarez, single, 36, head of compliance at the firm, until 5 minutes ago. She hadn't been fired. No, he was too polished for that. She'd been stalled, sidelined, dismissed, respectfully. Because her brother had a record, because her cousin had posted something anti-corporate, because her last name echoed in courtrooms louder than in boardrooms. We just can't have you representing the firm on this deal. Optics, you understand. But what he didn't know was, she had the file, the real one, with his offshore accounts, with her signature forged, with enough dirt to stain his glass tower forever. She stood. "Of course," she said, calm. "Thank you for your honesty." Then turned to leave. But in her bag she carried more than resignation. She carried a sealed envelope, stamped and signed. And it didn't hold her notice. It held their pardons. 10 years earlier. The visitation room was always cold, by design. No warmth, no noise, no softness. Just metal chairs, plexiglass partitions, and the sound of futures being rewritten in real time. Marielle sat across from her brother Mateo. He looked older than 23. Prison does that. But his eyes still carried the same fire, the same rage. "They said I hacked the system, but it was never proven." "It doesn't matter," Marielle replied. "They needed someone to blame, and you were easy." Mateo chuckled bitterly. "You think if I wore a different last name, I'd be out?" She didn't answer. Because she knew the truth. Their family name had become shorthand for failure, for rebellion, for trouble. Their uncle, fired from city transit for union organizing. Their cousin, arrested in a campus protest. Their father, gone before they could ask why. Marielle had spent most of her life scrubbing her resume, her accent, her wardrobe, just to be allowed into rooms filled with suits and sharp smiles. And still, today, that name followed her, branded her, judged her. "I'm going to fix this," she told him that day. "All of it." Mateo laughed bitterly. "You gonna be a lawyer?" "No," she said. "I'm going higher. I'll get into their system, and when I'm inside, I'll rewrite the rules." That day, she left the prison with nothing but a notebook and a plan. Back in the present, she walked down the building's marble hallway, heels striking like a ticking clock. In her bag was the file. Chairman Wright's off-book fund transfers, false compliance reports, contracts bearing her digital signature placed without consent. Evidence, weapon, leverage. But she wasn't heading to HR or legal. She was heading to someone else. Because what Chairman Wright didn't know was that she'd already met with the governor's liaison last week. And today, she wasn't fighting for her career. She was cashing in every debt she'd earned in silence to clear their names. The receptionist blinked when she said the name. "Governor's liaison office, please." "Tell them Marielle Juarez is here to follow up." The woman at the desk glanced up. hesitation in her fingers. Juarez, that name again. But something in Mariel's tone, measured, steel-lined, overrode the doubt. Room 1704. He's expecting you. She walked down the hallway. Same building, different floor. Not corporate, not legal, political. Behind that walnut door was Kenneth Ryan, special advisor to the governor of California, and a man who once made a promise he hoped history had forgotten. But Mariel hadn't. 20 years ago, Kenneth Ryan was a low-level city council staffer. He'd shown up to Mateo's juvenile hearing, taking notes, shaking hands, and promising reform to the cameras outside. "This system fails kids like your brother. We'll change it. You have my word." Her mother believed him, baked him cookies, and cried when he sent a holiday card. But Mateo still went to trial, still got 6 years, and Ryan got promoted. Now, as Mariel stepped into his corner office, Ryan stood. "Mariel Juarez, I admit I didn't expect your name on today's agenda." "But you remembered it," she said, sitting without waiting to be invited. "It's a name that sticks," he offered, with a half-smile that didn't reach his eyes. She placed a folder on the table between them. "I'm not here for revenge. I'm here to redeem a promise." He opened the folder, glanced at the signatures. His face didn't change, but his breathing did. Inside, character endorsements from nonprofit leaders, behavioral reevaluations, the chairman's financial forgeries, highlighted in yellow. A clemency request for Mateo Juarez and Leona Menendez, her cousin. "You've been busy," he muttered. 10 years, she replied, "of being silent, of building trust, of learning your system better than you did." Ryan looked at her. "And if I say no?" Mariel leaned forward, voice steady. "Then tomorrow the press gets this, and they find out exactly who helped cover Wright's shell accounts. There's a trail, and yes, it includes your initials." Ryan sat back, not shocked, just defeated. "You're not the girl I met in that courtroom." "No," she said. "I'm the woman you helped create when you walked away." The silence between them was deliberate. Ryan didn't deny the documents, didn't refute the signatures, didn't bother to fake surprise. "How long have you had this?" he asked quietly. "Long enough to know you've been cleaning up behind Wright for years," Mariel said, "and long enough to see who you chose to protect and who you left behind." He exhaled, a sound that held more years than breath. "You think this makes you righteous?" "No," she said. "It makes me ready." Ryan stood, walked to the window. Outside, the city shimmered, oblivious. He pressed a hand to the glass like someone trying to feel something real. "I wanted to change things once," he said. "But the higher you climb, the more deals you're forced to swallow. Some people lose their edge. Others sharpen it and bleed quietly." "And which one are you?" she asked. He turned back. "I used to think I was building leverage. Now I think I built a cage." Mariel didn't flinch. "Then unlock it. Today. Sign the clemency, clear their names, or the world learns who you became." Ryan walked to the desk, took a pen from the drawer, paused. "You know this won't win you anything with Wright. Once this leaks, you're scorched earth to them. I'm not here to be liked. I'm here to make sure my family stops paying for sins they didn't commit." He signed. 2 names, 2 lives, 2 decades of delay, erased in 7 seconds of ink. Mariel took the folder back, checked the seal. "You'll deliver this to the governor's office yourself. No staff, no delay." Ryan nodded, eyes heavier now. Not with guilt, but with recognition. He had just handed power back to the very girl the system thought it swallowed. "What will you do now?" he asked. "Clean house," she replied, "and I'll start with Wright." The lobby looked the same. Polished floors, quiet tension, a scent of money that didn't belong to anyone who actually worked for it. Mariel stepped through the security gate without hesitation. She no longer wore the staff badge, but she didn't need it. Because now, she wasn't in the system. She was above it. In her hands, the signed clemency letters. In her bag, the evidence. And in her voice, something corporate couldn't code. Conviction. She passed the front desk. The guard gave a polite nod, then did a double take. "Miss Juarez, I thought—" "I'm here for Chairman Wright," she said, without stopping. "He'll want to see me, immediately." The elevator ride was silent, except for the sound of her heartbeat. Not from fear, from focus. 24th floor, executive level, where glass walls kept truth out and deals in. White's assistant looked up as Mariel entered. "He's in a meeting." "Not anymore," and she opened the door. White was mid-sentence. Two men in suits turned, startled. He stared at her like she was a ghost from a career he thought buried. "Mariel," he said, voice tight, "this is highly inappropriate." She walked forward, placed the folder on the table. "So was signing my name on documents I never approved." White's face paled. "Gentlemen," he said to the other men, "give us the room." They exited fast, like men who knew not to stand too close to a fire they didn't light. When the door shut, Mariel said, "I have the original reports, the forged compliance statements, the offshore transfers linked to your Cayman shell accounts, and as of 2 hours ago, the governor's office has been notified." White stood, slow and steady. "You're bluffing. Check your inbox," she said. His screen lit up, and there it was. Governor's seal, subject, clemency granted, attachments pending review. He sank into his chair. "You could have had a future here," he muttered. "I do," she replied, "just not under your ceiling. You think this makes you win. They'll come for you now, dig up everything, twist it." "Let them," she said. "I have nothing to hide." "You do now," he said, narrowing his eyes. "You just played dirty." "No, I played clean. You just never imagined someone like me could play at all." As she walked out, her steps echoed louder than ever before. Not because the hallway changed, because she had. In her pocket buzzed a text from Mateo. "You did it?" She replied, "Check the news in an hour." And outside, the sky opened not with thunder, but with the quiet power of something long overdue. Justice. By 6:45 p.m., her name was trending. Hashtag Mariel Juarez. Hashtag Pardon Not Privilege. Hashtag Clean House Campaign. Cable news anchors scrambled. The evening political panels lit up. A mid-level compliance officer just took down one of the most influential chairs in California corporate finance. Governor's office confirms full clemency granted to Mateo Juarez and Leona Mendez, citing gross misconduct in prior convictions. But behind the camera flashes, one image struck deepest. Mariel outside the courthouse, standing between her brother and cousin. No podium, no makeup. Just real faces blinking into sunlight they hadn't seen in years without shame. Mateo looked overwhelmed. "We're free," he whispered. Mariel just nodded. "Now we rebuild." The reporters swarmed. "Mariel, was this revenge? Did you leak the documents to the governor? Will you be running for office?" She stepped forward, voice firm, gaze steady. "This isn't about politics. This is about restoration. My family has paid for sins they never committed, while others cashed the checks. Today is not a win. It's a reset." Behind the crowd, a quiet moment passed unnoticed. Her mother stood on the courthouse steps, holding a photo. Faded, torn at the corners. It was of their old house, the one that got raided when she was 15, where the neighbors whispered, where no one knocked again. Her mother pressed the photo to her heart. "You kept your promise, mija," she said, eyes misting. Back inside City Hall, the walls were shaking. Chairman Wright's resignation had been filed under personal reasons. Investigations were mounting, emails subpoenaed.
Whispers of who else knew and how long had it been going on filled boardrooms once built to keep secrets airtight. And in one quiet office, Kenneth Rhines stared out at the skyline. He hadn't spoken to Mariel since she left his office.
But now, watching her on TV, he understood something with final clarity. He hadn't given her power. He'd merely returned what had always been hers. 3 days later, the conference room at the Capitol wasn't large, but the weight of the invitation echoed louder than the microphones waiting to be switched on. Mariel sat at one end of the polished oak table, staring at the folder in front of her. Stamped on the cover, State Advisory Committee on Criminal Justice Reform. Inside, a formal offer. Position, Deputy Policy Advisor. Focus, Systemic Reform, Sentencing, Digital Forensics, Youth Justice. You'll have a team, the aide had said, and a voice, one that matters. But her thoughts weren't in that room. They were back home with Matteo and Leona. Leona had just started a job at a nonprofit helping formerly incarcerated women. Matteo had enrolled in a coding boot camp. They were rebuilding, finally breathing air without chains in it. And now she was being asked to walk right back into the fire. Ryan entered the room, late, quiet, carrying a coffee she didn't ask for. You read it? I did. And? Mariel leaned back. I'm not a politician, she said. Neither were any of the people that changed this place, Ryan replied, until they stepped in. I didn't expose Wright to get hired. I did it to free my family. And now? He asked. She was silent for a beat. Now I wonder if that freedom lasts, or if it gets traded for visibility. Ryan nodded. Visibility is a weapon, Mariel, and a shield. You'll need both. She looked at the folder again. The offer felt like justice, but also like bait. Because power comes wrapped in promises that smell like purpose, but taste like compromise. Do you think they'll listen to me in those rooms? She asked. They're already listening, he said. The question is, will you speak for them or let someone else define them again? Later that night, at home, Matteo found her on the balcony. You're thinking about taking it. She didn't deny it. If I step in, they'll dig. Every cousin, every email, every neighbor who once got a parking ticket. Let them, he said. We've lived in the dark long enough. It's not just us anymore, she said. It's the next kid with our last name. He nodded. Then maybe it's time someone like us rewrote the script. She looked out at the skyline. Same skyline, same power lines. But for the first time, she didn't feel beneath it. She felt level. The first committee hearing was televised. Mariel sat at the table under warm lights and colder glances. Behind her, state officials, think tank representatives, a few hand-picked activists. Across from her, lawmakers trained to speak without saying anything. The chairperson smiled. Ms. Urez, it's rare for someone to transition from whistleblower to advisor so quickly. It's not a transition, she replied. It's a continuation. There were polite laughs. Then the real questions began. What's your stance on restorative justice for high-risk offenders? Do you believe shorter sentences compromise public safety? Should victims have veto power over clemency applications? Mariel answered with clarity, precision, but also heart. She didn't quote law textbooks. She quoted visitation rooms, prison mail, wasted youth, broken cycles. And for a moment, the room quieted, not out of agreement, but out of unfamiliarity. She wasn't like them, and that was her edge and her threat. In private, the smiles faded. At a closed-door dinner with senior advisors, she heard whispers that weren't meant to reach her. She's too loud for a freshman.
The optics are great, but she needs containment. Let her speak, but not decide. Ryan warned her gently. They'll try to fold you into the wallpaper. I didn't come here to blend in, she replied. I came to break walls. But something else was happening. Her cousin Leona received an unexpected audit at work. Mateo's coding boot camp was suddenly at capacity. The headlines shifted. Is Mariel Urez overreaching? From hero to headache? Power was whispering again. Not to her, about her. One night, she opened her email to find a message from an encrypted address. No subject line, just an attachment. A surveillance photo. It showed her mother, shopping. Nothing sinister, except for the red circle drawn around her head. No words, just the image. A warning. She stared at it, then deleted it. She walked outside, barefoot, into the cold. Mateo followed. You okay? I thought once we were free, we'd be safe. He was quiet. They're not punishing us. They're testing us, seeing if we'll step back, stay grateful, stay scared. He looked at her. And will we? She didn't answer. But inside, she knew. This wasn't the war she expected. This was deeper, wider, more dangerous. Because it wasn't just about clearing names anymore. It was about who gets to write the future. The envelope arrived on a Tuesday. No return address, just her name, printed in all caps. Inside, a note, handwritten. You have a choice. They want your silence. We want your voice. Decide by Friday. Either way, this is your last clean exit. Beneath those lines, a contract, an offer to step down from the advisory position quietly for personal reasons. In return, full protection from political backlash, a consulting position at double the pay. No further audits, no more headlines, no more threats. It was clean, legal, lethal. That night, she found herself in the attic of her childhood home. Dust in the air, old boxes labeled school, dad stuff, holiday lights, and then one marked in faded ink. Mama, 1993-2004. She opened it. Inside, bundled in a plastic sleeve, was a drawing. Stick figures. 4 of them. A small house, a broken window, and next to it a single line in childish handwriting. One day I'll make people see we are not the problem. She remembered drawing it after their house had been vandalized, after a neighbor spray-painted "Go Back" on their garage, after the principal had told her she shouldn't speak Spanish at recess anymore. She stared at that page, torn at the corners, but still here, just like her. The next morning, she walked into the press briefing room. Full house, camera lights, anticipation. She took the podium, no statement prepared, no teleprompter.
Just her voice, unfiltered. I've been asked to resign, quietly, in return for comfort, money, and silence. They say I've made people uncomfortable, that I push too hard, that I speak out of turn. She paused. They're right. I am not here to keep the peace. I'm here to build a new one, the kind that doesn't depend on pedigree or name or whether your brother went to prison. I will not resign. And if they remove me, I'll still be louder on the outside than I ever was on the inside. Because this is not about me. It's about all the people who've been told they are the problem, when in fact, they've been the solution all along. A hush fell, and then applause. Not thunderous, but real, raw. Someone stood, then another. Reporters, activists, strangers. Mariel stepped down,
her hands shaking, but her eyes steady. Later that evening, she sat on her porch with Matteo and Leona. "You could have taken the deal," Matteo said. "I did, just not the one they offered." In her lap lay the childhood drawing, now framed, hung above her desk, not as a reminder of pain, but of promise. Because in the end, when the chairman said, "Your family is the problem," she didn't argue. She rewrote the ending. If this story moved you or opened your eyes, don't forget to hit like, leave a comment, and repost this report with someone who needs to see it.